Hello guys, in this video we will cover strategy pattern in JavaScript. We will define a real-world scenario and explain how to solve it using strategy pattern approach. So let's get started. According to Wikipedia, in computer programming, the strategy pattern, also known as a policy pattern, is a behavioral software design pattern that enables selecting an algorithm at runtime. Instead of implementing a single algorithm directly, code receives runtime instructions as to which in a family of algorithms to use. Let's look at the scenario. In this scenario, we have a warehouse management system, or WMS. When order is shipped, meaning tracking information is entered into the system needs to check order's source and send the tracking information to the appropriate destination. If order comes from Shopify e-commerce platform, the system needs to send tracking info to Shopify. If it's a BigCommerce order, the tracking needs to be sent to BigCommerce. Otherwise, the system needs email to the customer on the order that their purchase is on the way. Now let's take a look at the strategy pattern implementation class diagram. At the top of the inheritance tree, there is an abstract class, Tracking Info Sender. It is extended by children, Shopify Tracking Info Sender, BigCommerce Tracking Info Sender, and Email Tracking Info Sender. Tracking Info Sender class has an abstract method, sendTracking. Since it's an abstract method, Tracking Info Sender class also works as an interface, meaning all children have to implement sendTracking method. Sometimes an advantage of having an abstract parent class instead of a simple interface is that duplicate logic of child classes can be pushed up to the parent class, enforcing dry principle. In our case, each child class has to assign a corresponding order to order property. This logic can be handled by the parent. Another method of the Tracking Info Sender class is getSender. This is a static factory method. It will decide which child Tracking Info Sender class to instantiate depending on the order source. As for children classes, they're implementing sendTracking method in whichever way it needs to be implemented. But in our case, we'll just do console logging. Now let's translate this diagram into code. But before we do that, if you are finding value in our exploration of the strategy pattern so far, give us a quick thumbs up by hitting the like button right now. And if you are hungry for more insights into programming concepts and design patterns, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Right here in the VS Code, I have a Node.js project that is configured with a TypeScript, ESLint, and Prettier. In the src folder, I have an index.ts file that imports run strategy pattern from strategy pattern folder index.js file, and it calls the method run strategy pattern. Now let's go to strategy pattern folder. This is the diagram that I showed before, and the index file right here just exports function run strategy pattern, where it console logs hello from strategy pattern. Let's go ahead and run yarn dev in the terminal. And as you can see, we get hello from strategy pattern. Now in strategy pattern folder, let's create order.ts file. And in this file, we will define the order. We will export enum order source, where we define order sources for Shopify, BigCommerce, and internal. Then we also going to export class order, and the property will be source. That will be the only property in our example, but in your real life there will be many more properties. And then we're going to have a constructor that will set order source, and that's it. Now in strategy pattern folder, let's create tracking info file. In this file, we will define tracking info sender class hierarchy. Let's go ahead and create code in this file. So first we're going to import order and order source. From order, next, we're going to export default abstract class Tracking Info Sender. It will have a protected property order, which will be a type of order. And in the constructor, we will set that order property. The next, we will define the abstract sendTracking function. This function will be basically an interface that all child classes need to implement. Next, we're going to have a static getSender method, which will be a factory method. And first, we assign the sender to be email tracking info sender. That's as a default. Next, we'll have a switch statement and check the order source. If order source Shopify, we'll put Shopify. If order source is BigCommerce, we're going to put BigCommerce. And in the default, we're kind of going to repeat the same thing. We'll assign the sender email tracking info sender as well. That's it for the logic that will be deciding which class to instantiate. And then we're going to be returning the sender. So next, let's go ahead and define the child classes. First, we will define Shopify tracking info sender, and it will extend tracking info sender. And in the constructor, we'll have order, and this order will be passed to the parent class. Now we're going to implement method send tracking, and we're going to be console logging, sending tracking information to Shopify. The next class we're going to create will be BigCommerce tracking info sender. It will also extend tracking info sender. And the constructor, we're going to again pass the order. Order will go to the parent class, and then in the send tracking method, we'll just console log sending tracking information to BigCommerce. Finally, email tracking info sender will also extend tracking info sender. We'll instantiate it with an order, and we'll have send tracking method where it's going to console log emailing tracking information to the customer. And that's it for the tracking info senders implementation. Finally, let's go to index file in a strategy pattern folder. We can just go ahead and delete this. And we will put the following code. We're going to import order and order source. From order, we will import tracking info sender from tracking info. And then we define orders. We'll put them in the array, and we're going to have two orders. Order the Shopify and order internal. Next, we're going to map through the array of orders, and we're going to, for each order, call tracking info sender get sender factory method by passing an order, and the get sender method will decide which tracking info sender we're going to use. So here's basically the idea of the strategy pattern. It will decide on the strategy for us. Next, we're going to have a function send tracking info. It will take the tracking info sender, and we can type the tracking info sender as this abstract class that we have, because other info senders, for example, Shopify or BigCommerce, they will be of the same type of tracking info sender because they're implementing this class. So send tracking info function will essentially call send tracking method on each tracking info sender. Now let's export default function run strategy pattern. And in this function, we will go through tracking info senders and call for each method on them. And then we'll pass sender, and then we call the function tracking info sender and pass the sender to it. And that's it. Now let's go ahead and save the file and see what we're going to get in the output. And as you can see, we got two console messages, send tracking information to Shopify and emailing tracking information to the customer. Looks like our code is working. So just to recap, in our implementation of the strategy pattern, we have an abstract parent class that is both interface and has factory method that chooses which strategy to use. Since child classes have to implement parent's abstract method as an interface, we can safely call that method on each class. And this is the strategy pattern in a nutshell. I hope you liked this tutorial. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.